Hello and welcome to our Civic Engagement Lunch Talk. Just a little bit background about our lunch talks in general. They are from our Civic Engagement awardees who actually receive an award the year before, and then they're invited back to actually present their research. And our Civic Engagement Research Awards is a way to support UIC. It's a way that we support UIC faculty that centers on the concepts and practices and methods of civic engagement. And this is an award system for the UIC faculty members that we've been running for the last 10 years. So we're excited that you all are here to present the research and that you are here joining us with that for today's session. So today's lunch talk on augmented reality for informing and engaging the public about environmental pollution. Today's talk will actually explore how augmented reality can be used to inform and engage communities across about environmental pollutions in Chicago's industrial corridors, featuring a demonstration of AR visualization developed by the Media Democracy Lab. So I would like to welcome Dr. Aitamurto and her team to present today's lunch talk. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this kind introduction, and thanks for organizing this talk. We are so grateful to be able to share our work. And we're very excited to see you all here and then hear your questions at the end. And also we have prepared a demonstration of the AR visualization that we developed. So at the end, we can all try it out and interact with it. So with this, so to introduce ourselves a little bit, so I'm an associate professor at the Department of Communication here at UIC. I'm also the director of the Media and Democracy Lab, and I'm joined here by my wonderful team, students Nilovar Hachiwahimi, Kendall Tyson, and Michelle Maximova, who have all been working really hard for this project. And a little bit about our lab. So we are an interdisciplinary research group, and we focus on studying how we can use new media technologies for social good. So to inform and engage people about important societal issues like environmental pollution or immigration issues, whatever it is. And so we want to understand how we can use these technologies, such as augmented reality, as a civic technology, so that we would have a more inclusive, diverse, and equitable society. And in terms of our background, and to give a little bit of a primer how we got to do this project, where we got the idea of doing the current project about AR and environment. So we have an extensive background of doing multiple types of studies, a lot of human subject experiments with immersive technologies such as virtual reality, whether having people in headsets or doing mobile VR work. Also, we have studied augmented reality lab experiments. So here, for instance, on the left-hand side, you see a user interacting with an augmented reality visualization. And then in this other video, you see what the user actually sees on the screen. So the virtual object that the augmented reality brings to their field of view, they're interacting with that. And another study we run at the EVL, Electronic Visualization Lab here at UIC, again, a lab experiment studying how people learn, interact, and understand augmented reality. Then on the other hand, we have experience doing civic engagement projects. For instance, we have worked in Rogers Park here in Chicago in the 49th Ward. We have worked on participatory budgeting projects there. And then we have done extensive work on crowdsourced democracy and crowdsourced deliberation type of projects. And then we also have experience and expertise on human-centered design, which is a type of a design practice where we put the users in the center of the design process. So it's also called, we can call it participatory design practices. So we start from the end users, engage with them from the get-go. And then additionally, we also have expertise about environmental activism, especially studying it here in Southeast Chicago. So then we started to think, well, we have all these experiences and expertise, types of expertise. What else could we do with augmented reality rather than do these lab studies? Like, how could we do more civic engagement and community-based projects? And we knew that augmented reality has the capacity to make the invisible visible. And how that happens is that when you take your mobile device, as you will later see in our demo, you can project these virtual objects into your space. And we knew that AR as a technology is becoming more accessible, easier to use. So, and in terms of if AR sounds a little bit remote to you, many of you might have played Pokemon Go or heard about Pokemon Go. How many of you have heard? Okay, so most of you. So you know, in Pokemon Go, you take your mobile device and these little creatures pop up on your screen. They're 3D and it's fun and engaging, and you end up doing exercise at the same time. Like, for instance, this little yellow creature, Pikachu, shows up on your street way to work, and you can interact with it. So that's a prime example of AR. Other common day examples are in retail, for instance, on Amazon. If you're buying some furniture or an IKEA website, you can test them out in your space by using AR. Or buying new eyeglasses, you can put virtual glasses on the website. So, so we're using augmented reality more and more in our everyday life. So then we thought, okay, so how to use these capacities of AR? And because we knew that AR can make the invisible visible, so we thought, how about using then AR for displaying environmental pollution? Because we live in a city, Chicago, that has a tremendous sad history of pollution here. So we have a long history of industry that has polluted large areas of the city, and of course there is continuous sources of pollution happening. So that's how we came up with our primary goal. We wanted to learn, and still are on that journey. We want to know how we can use AR to combat environmental pollution. And then we narrowed this larger goal down to this more specific goal and research question. How can we use AR to inform and engage the public about environmental pollution with augmented reality, especially in Chicago's industrial corridors? And then we were really lucky because we got funding from IPCE. We are really happy for the Civic Engagement Award. We are really grateful for that funding because it enabled all the work that we are going to be reporting about today. So thank you, IPCE, for this wonderful award. So now I'm going to take a couple of minutes to walk you through our approach. Like, how do we actually start tackling these questions that we set? So we had a multi-step process. So we started from community engagement because we wanted to flip this lab experiment paradigm and start from the community. So we used human-centered design methods to engage with the community in Pilsen and Chicago specifically. Based on the community consultations and engagement, we developed our first augmented reality visualization prototype, which we tested in focus groups. We got feedback, we iterated the augmented reality visualization. Then we proceeded to do user interviews where the users would engage again with a new version of the AR visualization, analyze the interviews, again got a lot of feedback, iterated the AR visual, and now we have a new version of the visualization again. We also developed an augmented reality toolkit that is available free online on our lab website, and it's specifically geared for nonprofits and also for educational use. I'm going to talk more about that later. So now I'm going to zoom into these steps a little bit more closely. So the goal was first to figure out how can we visualize the community concerns through augmented reality. So we worked with a community organization called PERO, the Pilsen Environmental Rights Organization, and to map the concerns that people have about environmental pollution, identifying the risks, and finding out what would be meaningful topics to be visualized in AR. And we decided, based on the information we got, we decided to focus on visualizing the Sims Metal Shredder, the facility in Pilsen, Chicago. How many of you have heard about this, Sims Metal? Some of you. Okay, so a little bit of background. So it's a metal recycling facility in the middle of Pilsen. You see here the area. It actually takes quite a large area in Pilsen. It's quite close, very close to community areas like schools and gardens and so on. And last fall, when we started to work on this project, especially there was a timely debate around the metal shredder because So the community says that there's community concerns and negative health effects because of the pollution coming from this facility. Although then EPA says that the Environmental Protection Agency says that the emissions are low enough so that it passes their filter. But then there was a debate whether the facility should be able to renew their permit or not. So, and there were community events around that. And so that's why we thought, okay, this is a timely matter. So let's set on visualizing this situation around the Civic metal facility. And we had multiple different approaches, what we tested and tried. And then when we got our first full prototype of the augmented reality visualization ready, we organized focus groups in Pilsen, Chicago, in the Torrey Park community room, where we then introduced the visualization to people, and they were able to use it, and we were able to get feedback and more ideas how to better address people's concerns and the information needs that they had. And here's a short video showing some of the visuals we showed in the focus group. So we start with an aerial view of where the facility is, placing it on the map, visualizing different types of chemicals that the facility emits, and then showing some adverse health effects that these chemicals may have, and then showing how it's related, the proximity to different community places, and then highlighting this debate around the facility. So this is where we started from. And then in the focus group, we got a lot of valuable feedback by interviewing people, by observing them. They answered our surveys, and we had a group discussion around the visualization. And then based on the feedback, which was so illuminating, and this engagement with the community, so we decided to add, for the next iteration, a 3D model of the shredder, which you see here, and you will see in the demo afterwards too. So, so the 3D model is like a scan of the shredder, and once you view it in AR, you can really interact with it. You can walk through it. You can see it from multiple sides. You can look at it from the above, or however you want to place it in your space. So here's like the isolated model, and here in this video you see it placed as it is a screen capture. So it shows as if you were using it on your mobile phone. That's how it looks like. So then we wanted to test this new version. We also did a bunch of other iterations to the visuals and left out a lot of material, brought in new material. And then we wanted to get feedback again. So we interviewed about 40 participants who again used the visualization. Each interview took about half an hour. And in these interviews, the protocol went so that you wrote an article, it's a 2-page article that portrays the features of debate that's going on about the metal shredder in Pilsen. Because we had the users or the participants first read the article and then interact with the visualization. And because we got feedback in the earlier stages in this project that just having the isolated AR visualization without any context, there were a lot of questions that people asked. That, oh, how about the numbers? How about this? How does Civic metal shredder employ people in the area? Like, what are the pros? What are the cons? And having all that information in the AR visualization would make it tremendously long. It would be like a 10-minute visualization, and that's not real the use case for AR, because it's really stimulating mentally and visually, so people can only view it for so long. So we decided to test how would this work if we have a reading material short that gives you some basic information about the situation. And then we proceeded to do the interviews, analyze them, and then now I'm going to walk you through briefly some of the main findings, the observations that we made based on these interviews. So first of all, we found that there's a really fascinating interplay between the engaging and informative functions of the augmented reality visualization. And I'll explain you what this means. So first of all, the participants reported that they learned while they used the visualization when they engaged with it, and it helped to understand and deepen their information, their knowledge about environmental pollution in Chicago. And particularly the visualization helped to kind of make the pollution more tangible and more spatially located with the different aspects, the features we had in the visualization. For instance, the users found that it was really valuable to show these community spaces on a map, so you could see the proximity to the to that facility, and then with AR you can walk closer, you can interact with the map a little bit, so it becomes more real, like more realistic, and you can feel more that, oh, this is a serious issue, I can see this now. And what was really interesting to us, because we inquired about the perceived credibility of the visualization, with the idea that, of course, what we present in the visualization needs to be credible so that the users believe it and trust that it's true, otherwise it's nonsense. So we were curious to know what factors contribute to the perceived credibility of the augmented reality visualization. So these locations, which is a rather simple thing, but portraying these in a certain way, using certain design decisions, that contributed to the perceived credibility of the AR visualization. And then an interesting point that came up was about the 3D model of the shredder. So, and this was a little bit of like a blessing and a curse, the 3D model. So it was perceived as very informative and engaging, to the point that people got really interested in this. How does the shredder work? What was all this thing about pollution? So yes, from the civic engagement perspective, a very good thought to have the shredder there. It's also very emotionally stimulating. So people get curious, they want to interact with it, they want to walk through it, they want to learn more, which is great for our goals. And so now the shredder made the pollution situation, the issue, more tangible and more concerning to the users based on the interviews. And then also what was really interesting was that they felt, even with this rather simple visualization, the model of the shredder, they felt something we called sense of presence in VR studies and in immersive technology studies. The sense of presence is a psychological state that we can go into when we interact with immersive technologies. So an example of a sense of presence is where you really feel that the virtual object is here. So you really feel that the shredder is in the same room. And that's how it normally works with AR, because we bring the virtual objects to our field of view, so then we feel physical presence with these objects. Whereas with VR, if you put a headset on, the goal is to transport you to this other reality, to the virtual reality. So with AR, we bring the objects to our space, but we can still feel, based on this study, a rather strong sense of presence. And also that emotionally then involves people in this topic. Like for instance, this participant here says that they compared the AR experience to a game, like, oh, it makes you feeling like you're involved like in a game, and it's good, it's more personal. Another participant felt really strong sense of presence because they said that when they were interacting with the 3D model, they said, oh, because it's 3D, but if I walk right through it, I'll bump my knee. Yeah, oh, there's the other side. What would happen if I walked right through it? It's not going to break. I'm not going to stop my toe, am I? So they think about, you're still in this reality. You don't have a headset on. You just have the 3D model in front of you, but you feel like it's so realistic. So that's a really powerful and fascinating part of AR and these immersive technologies, that if we can then channel this emotional engagement and the sense of presence into, for instance, to contributing to social good or supporting certain social causes. So that's where the power could be. But then there's the kind of the curse part of this engagement. So for some users, it seemed like the 3D model in the AR visualization can be almost too stimulating. And so we identified that there's a paradox in this engagement and informative functions. That while the model can be very informing and engaging, it can also compromise the perceived credibility of the augmented reality visual because it is so engaging. So somehow, some people felt like we call this break in perceived credibility, that generally the participants think, oh yeah, this is credible composition, yeah, this seems all true, but there's a break in this perceived credibility. For instance, this participant said that the 3D model of the shredder, it errs a little bit on the side of propaganda against the factory a little bit, just a little bit. So they felt like, oh, this is somehow a little bit like propaganda maybe because it's so engaging, maybe because there's so much visual stimulation and there's so much information that you're trying to take in. So you're kind of removed from your normal psychological state. And this is something we want to study further and understand what the mechanism is here and how can we balance that line that at the same time the content has to be engaging, otherwise people are not going to be interested in it. And for sure they will not voluntarily take on any AR visualizations if it's not engaging and interesting. But at the same time, it cannot be overboard because then you can lose the credibility of it. And then we have enough problems with disinformation, fake news, all that type of and propaganda these days. So we need to stay, of course, out of that type of perceptions. So all in all, so far we can say yes, AR could be an effective tool for multitude of communication practices in this society, for advocacy of different topics, whether it's environmental pollution or other questions, education, civic engagement in different ways, because it's such accessible a tool that you will need less and less technology for, and it really raises people's interest and they are able to learn with this technology too, because they get so much information. So now, currently, we are working on a new iteration of the AR visual. We are organizing more community workshops coming up in November, which we're inviting all of you to join if you're interested. And also we want to run a human subject experiment at the end where we then compare AR with other more traditional type of media and visualizations. Because so far, as we started from the community concerns, human-centered design, civic engagement, so we haven't done a lab study yet where we could then do like a more controlled experiment, which we have done in the past with immersive technologies. And then now a couple of words about the toolkit. So we developed this toolkit based on this study that we run. And so this toolkit gives you the basics of AR, focusing on AR and environmental use. It gives you a walkthrough, introduction to different AR resources, hardware and software requirements, and step-by-step guide to creating AR visualizations. So when you go to the toolkit, which is accessible on our lab website, medemlab.com, so you can see these step-by-step guides. How do you create a 3D model, for instance, that we have in the AR visualization, and there's also other step-by-step guides. And the idea here is that we want to encourage people to use AR and experiment with it so that we would all holistically learn as a community from it, so that also nonprofits anywhere in the world could use AR with the tools and resources what's available to them. Because we know that while Chicago is a hub for pollution, of course, this narrative is not local, it's global. Environmental pollution, unfortunately, it's a global tragedy. So with this, let's move on to hearing from our wonderful students. So they're going to highlight some key learnings, what they have learned in the past year during this project. So let's start with Neil. Did you want to share your learnings? I think it's for the mic, it's better here.
My name is Neil Farah Kamingel. I'm a PhD candidate and my research focuses on socio-technical research, initially how to use technology in everyday life to raise awareness or to empower communities. This was a great project for me. I gain experience working with community. But if I want to summarize like my main takeaways from this project in just 3 points, I guess it was very rewarding, first of all, to observe the users' interaction with AR in the room. Because when you interview them, they talk about their engagement in AR, but it's another level of engagement when you see it in the room as a researcher, while they are looking at the AR model, and it kind of wows them, and you see their reaction and how this model is interesting for them and how they want to engage further with it. Another point was the role of users' prior experience with AR. So in our research, we actually had a wide range of ages and different type of education. We had from 18 to 64-year-old informants. And so coming from different backgrounds, they engaged with that AR model in different ways. And it was kind of inspiring to see that how an AR model can actually raise awareness in all these different groups to some extent, And lastly, designing a community-led project was kind of educational for me, because as I'm trying to move on with our own PhD project, it's good to see that how you can empower the community by asking their opinion and go back and forth with them in order to raise that engagement and bring a model to them that essentially is reflecting their feedback source. And it was writing for us, it was writing for the users, and all led to the more awareness to an issue that's important to all of us, which is environmental issues, right? So that's my take.
Thank you, Neil. And then Kendall, do you want to go next?
Hi, hello, my name is Kendall Tyson. I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Communication. My research focuses on environmental communication, particularly around networked activism and where it intersects with land use policy and health and permit or policy controversies or planners' dilemmas. I have a quote up here that I have to give credit to Mindlin Anderson, a woman I met during a fellowship over the summer. And essentially this quote says, when we're the smartest ones in the room, we are doing the work well. And I think that reflects some of the ethos that I was applying to this project. And I have to thank Tanja for giving me the opportunity to put that in practice. We are all smart people in this room, I think, and I think we bring a lot to the table as researchers. But when we're talking and researching issues that affect community, it's important that we're, in my opinion, that we're placing those people impacted by those into the room, into the conversation. That's something that I really value within this project, and particularly around the stimulus design. We've been talking about the multiple iterations, and I think the takeaway for me with this has to do with self-reflexivity and continuous progress in applying that principle. So I'm looking forward to the next iterations of this project and continuing to put that in practice and thinking of ways you can always improve putting that in practice. And one of the things I'm most proud about in this project is actually our approach in accessibility and dissemination with that principle in mind in the development of the toolkit. I had a lot of fun working on this project and helping build the model recycler. Everything that was produced in the model is from open source software and free images. So cost and labor, but not in terms of access, in terms of the tools we're using. And I think that's a great approach, or what I value, that essentially anyone in this room could do something similar with this technology, with the issues affecting your communities or your research focuses, and that theoretically someone from within a community could also appropriate this technology. So yeah, thank you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Kendall. And Michelle, did you want to go next?
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm a PhD student, not a candidate yet, in the Department of Communication as well. And my research is in queer game studies. So I'm very interested in communities and audiences and how they engage with media. So that includes AR as well. So for me, the three things that were most important experiences from this project were how we conducted collaborative analysis. So I worked with textual analysis and qualitative analysis solo before, but when we were working together, we agreed on our interpretations and codes in general, but also each individual could bring up something that the others haven't thought about, and the process of creating knowledge that way was really different from how it works when you're working alone. The other thing was participant engagement. Participant engagement, what I mean is that every participant was really invested in the topic. And I think usually I don't expect people to be very enthusiastic about research. I feel like maybe they will be a little bit interested, but not like too much. But here, I think in part because the project was really persuasive and had this emotional impact through AR, and in part also because community was involved from the very early stages, where they had input into what was going to be talked about, how it's going to be talked about. That's why even people later on, even people who weren't familiar with environmental issues in Pilsen would still get really invested in the issue and share their opinions with us. And then finally, in those interviews, there was such a huge variety of perceptions, values, topics, everything that came up. We had a very open-ended questions, and some people focused on design, critiquing it or praising it. Some people focused on community and how they wanted to hear more from community members on this issue, like the validity of like voices that are represented in the project. And yet others were talking about pollution in general or in the area specifically. And I felt that that was really exciting in the research, in the method design, in the study design, how it allowed the participants to direct us into what they thought was important to talk about.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. And I think now is a good time to give a round of applause to these wonderful students. For this project, it's been such a delight and honor to get to work with you all, so thank you. And so then what's coming up next? So we're going to organize more participatory design workshops focused on environmental pollution, also immigration questions. We're also going to have an open lab event in November, so if you're interested in coming by and saying hello, learning more about our projects, or introducing your ideas, we're always open to collaborating, very much so. So you can shoot me an email, or you can sign up to our email list. We're circulating this sign-up sheet, so if you're going to want to write down your contact info so we can send you updates and invitations to whatever is coming up in our lab. So with this, let's wrap up this part of the talk. Happy to take questions, and then at the same time we can transition into the demo. So everybody's invited to use the visualization. So we're going to show you how to get started, and then you can work, just interact with the visualization. And I promise it will not bite you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.